each goal, there's a national target, and then there are KPIs, ways in which we can measure success. We'll navigate through this a little bit and have a discussion on the actual framework. So let me proceed and see what else I have on the slide here. Yes, the framework for goals and KPIs. What it seeks to do is to take the strategic plan document as a whole and translate it into a specific goals, to specific goals. And these goals, like I've said, are overarching goals and departmental goals. And each of these goals, like I've said already, has national targets and key performance indicators. So this is actually almost repeating what I've said previously. But important thing here, statement here, is that the framework for KPIs is translating the strategic plan into something that you can take and run with as a court. So if you go to the framework, the goals that are expected of you within the next 2 to 3 years are listed in this framework. And as time goes on, as things are implemented and things change, some new things may find their way into this framework. Once GAC determines that we need to move on the items, the framework items. So without having to go back each time to the strategic plan document, you have a framework that is put in a very easily accessible way and put itself in the to provide the means for easy measurement of progress for us to make reference to and to work with. So I think this is the most important statement. So it will mean that on your day-to-day level workings, you will work more with the framework than with the strategic plan document itself. And because we've spelled it out for you. You may always go back to the strategic plan and get background information on issues and also put your mind in the right frame. But in terms of the mechanics of moving forward, the framework has reduced the strategic plan to this framework for you. I hope that you really grasp this concept going forward. Because going forward, everything else you're going to do will be based on the framework. So in the framework, under each of the other overarching goals or departmental goals, we have the goals, individual goals. And we say that what are these goals? We are saying that these goals are SMART statements of intent. And the SMART is an acronym which stands for simple, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So we are saying that our goals, when we state them, tells everybody who listens to them of what we intend to do. And they should be so simple that everybody will understand them. They should give us an indication that when we are successful, our success can be measured. And also, what we are saying, we have the resources, we have the human beings, and we have the monetary parts and everything to achieve what we say we want to do. And it's realistic in the sense that the probability that if we do what we say we are going to do, we will achieve the results that we said we will achieve is highly probable. It's highly probable. That makes it realistic. Even after throwing all the money to, you have all the resources, you throw all your resources to something and don't achieve the results, then that means probably you're not realistic in your expectation. So realism is high probability of achievement. And then, of course, we must be time-bound. So these goals must be time-bound. And what we do is that the whole framework, the goals, targets, and KPIs, when put together, give us these SMART goals we are talking about. So our goals must be SMART. And they should be simple, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Now, the goals are structured to have overarching goals. So for each of the courts, for General Assembly, for Presbytery, for districts, and for congregations, each of them have a set of overarching goals. So each court has overarching goals. And then there are also what we call the departmental goals. So at the General Assembly level, you'll see that there will be 7 departments. So each department will have a set of goals under it. So if you go to the Department of Church Life and Nature, there will be a number, 3, 4, 5 goals for the Department of Church Life and Nature at the national level, at the General Assembly level. When you come to the Presbytery, for the 7 departments again, you will have, for each of the departments, a set of goals that they need to work to. But these departments change to committees when you get to the districts. So they are same departmental goals, but when you come to the districts, they become 7 committees. And then our constitution now translates the 7 committees into 11 committees in the congregation. So there will be one set of overarching goals and 11 set of committee goals, but generally we call them departmental goals. But in this case, at the congregational level, there will be 11 committee goals. But they are all linked up with each other, right from the head office or the General Assembly through the presbyteries, through the districts, to the congregations. They are all related, but they are standalone for it. So if you go onto the website and you go and look at the framework, you see that there will be congregational framework, there will be district framework, there will be presbytery framework, and the General Assembly level framework. Pardon me. Okay, so, okay, please, somebody wants to say something. Calvary.
My question is, please, looking at the committees at the local level, vis-a-vis those at the district level and then the presbytery and so on and so forth. When you're writing reports, we've been made to know that we must write the reports under the key result areas, in which case are the departments. Now, with the district, with the local level, how do they put those things under the key result area? Because each committee chairperson is supposed to provide a report for the clerk or the district at the local level for him to present to session, and then that will go to the district session. So they are going to write it in that way. Now, how do we come in to that key result areas that the church requires us to write reports?
If you watch the way we are moving forward, that word key result area appears to present these challenges to us because of the way we've used it, and we've used key result areas to be synonymous with departments.
Right.
In the traditional sense, a key result area is not a department. A key result area is a statement of intent. Okay. It's a goal. When you are achieving key results, you are achieving goals. The emphasis here on this framework is that we are working to goals rather than what we call the key result areas. But the goals have been organized under departments or committees. So that is what we are having now. So that's why when you are reporting the congregations, you report under your 11 committees. You don't need to say I'm reporting under 7 key result areas or departments. You have 11 committees. Provide your report under 11 committees. So how would then? I'm going on. How will you go to the district?
Yes. How would the district session clerk also fashion it into the seven committees that we
so
have.
when the district district is writing his report, the district will write under 7. But we have aligned the 11 under the 7. So in those parts of the
11 that will go into
11,
the 7.
that will go into the 7. So the alignment is there. So if we go into the framework, I will show you how it's been done.
Right. Thank you very much.
You are welcome, sir. Very, very, very important question that you asked, sir.
Hello, can I ask a question?
Yes, please, you can, yes.
My name is Reverend Ernestina Gapo.
Auntie Ernestina.
Yes, I have a little problem with the 11 committees at the local level. The problem is in our area, I mean the US, some of the congregations are very, very small. So to get all the 11 committees in that congregation, sometimes it's difficult. So if that happens and you don't get people to form those committees, what do you do?
Another very good question, Auntie Ernestina. If we go forward on to do the planning and things, you will see that we will have several goals in the thing. Some of the goals will be mandatory and some of them are non-mandatory. Now, it's understood that it's not all the congregations are not the same. Even in Ghana here, there are some congregations which are small and they cannot form 11 committees. So some of the preaching points cannot even form one committee. They struggle to have an IMC. So that is understood. But whichever goals that you choose to work on, which you choose to see as applicable, you still report under them, even if you don't have a committee. So the fact that you have a committee or don't have a committee should not be the key thing. The key thing is that what are you ready? What are you able to do? So you plan what you are able to do and report under the right headings where they fall. And then so even if you didn't have a committee and the session worked on those areas, the session reports under that goal or under that if you like key result area or under that in the name of that heading. So when you are reporting, you are not reporting under sometimes that's what I also I would rather report under church life and lecture and not under committee on church life and lecture. So if I'm reporting under the heading church life and lecture, whatever I've done under church life and lecture is what I report there. And not the fact that the committee did it. It could have even been done by a group, a generational group or something in your place. But you think it's relevant to report on, you take it and report under church life and lecture. And then we proceed. So that's how we've tried. We've gone very low in this terminology on, as we do this presentation, you don't see KRA anymore in any of these presentations we are doing. We've gone low on them because they were giving us this confusion. So we've placed goals under committees, and those are what committees are supposed to do. But if the committee does not exist, but a group of people, anybody, like probably you have 2 committees and one committee is doing the work of 3 committees, they will give reports, but they will break it under the headings where the goals fit, where they are giving their reports.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am. So I can proceed now. These are very important questions, and I'm happy that they are being asked. So now, the important thing that I also want to stress here is that these goals, the overarching goals and the department goals, are related. And I think the question that was asked, I've expatiated on that you can pick the 11 sets of goals from the congregations and translated them into a set of goals for the 7 committees in the district. From the district going, it's not a problem anymore because the committees becomes departments in the Presbytery, and the same departments are existing at the national level. So this is a very important point. When I hear pupun, is that somebody wants to say something or anything, Frank?
Sometimes. No, people just join.
Oh, okay, right, thanks. Okay, so for each of the goals, there are national targets that have been set. And what are the national targets? And these are very important in going forward. The national targets have been set by the GAC. And they are specific for each goal. So there's a national target for each goal. And the targets are measured using the KPI that is given. And what are these goals? The national target, they're supposed to provide a benchmark. I hope we understand what is benchmark for the course to set their own targets. Benchmarks are things that targets that you've set, or goals that you've set, or achievements that you are expecting from people. Now, they are benchmarks in the sense that you are expected to work towards that. They become a standard that you can refer to. These are also benchmarks. So in some cases, some of these benchmarks will be mandatory and fixed. That means year on year, GAC is expecting you to achieve what the benchmark says. In that case, they are not even benchmarks, they are expected outcomes from you. But in other cases where they are not fixed or mandatory, then you look at the benchmark and say, I want to work my way towards reaching this benchmark. But you can plan in accordance to your own resources, because we are all not in the same way, and we cannot all achieve the same things at the same time. So this is the essence of saying that they are benchmarks that we can work towards. And some of these benchmarks help us to mobilize all the calls to focus on the most critical issues. In this case, it's Vision 1.5 currently. And Vision 1.5 says that there's 1-1-1, one member, one soul each year. And that we should hit 1.5 million people by 2023. And this means that growing on average at 10% per annum per year from 2018. So this is what we are working at. So when it comes to growing the church in terms of numbers, and the Vision 1.5 is what has been accepted by General Assembly as our medium-term program objective to reach 1.5 by 2023, then the church says, no congregation, no district, or no presbytery can come to me and say, I want to grow less than 10% per annum, because that's the minimum we have to grow to be able to achieve the 1.5 million. So this becomes then mandatory, and it becomes a fixed goal for us. But we'll come into some of these discussions as we move on. The KPIs, these are key performance indicators. They are stated means for setting performance targets. So for instance, if the KPI is number of souls won, then when we are setting a performance target, we say we are going to win 100 souls in 2020. And when it comes to measuring your performance, you can say, I won 80 souls in 2020. And when we are evaluating you, we can evaluate you by comparing the 100 target that you set with the 80 achievement that you made, and said, oh, you were 80% successful. So can we say 80% successful is very good or under par? In certain circumstances, 80% is very good, excellent. In some circumstances, if you are expected, the minimum is 100% and you get less than that, then probably it's not good enough. So you can see that once you have a means of measurement, then you have the means to which you can set your benchmark or set your target. And then when you perform, you can go and measure the same item to see the extent to which you are performing. And if you want to evaluate yourself, now, because you have a benchmark last year's performance, this year's performance, and all those things, you can take those same numbers and compare them to each other and say, I grew by 8% per annum in terms of membership. My target was 10%. I did not meet my target. But the 8% I grew this year is twice as much as my growth rate last year. You see? So in terms of evaluating, you have improved twice as much, though you didn't meet the target that you set yourself. So somebody will say, you didn't meet your target, but you say, I doubled my performance, even whilst trying to meet the target. So somebody say, oh, you've done well in one area, but next time try to also meet your target. You are not lying down. You've done quite a bit. So these are when you come and set yourself a target that I'll grow by 5% per annum. Meanwhile, last year you grew by 10. I'll ask you, what has changed? Why can't you do the 10% you did last year? You must have a reason of bringing it down to 5. And then we can have a discussion. So once you have KPIs, it helps you in your target setting, and it helps you in evaluating the targets that you are setting yourself, whether they are realistic and achievable. And also it helps you when you are evaluating your performance. So KPIs are so fundamental in this framework as we move forward. And also the KPIs also facilitate the collation of our achievement. So for instance, if the KPI is number of souls won for mission and evangelism, and the congregation wins souls, congregation A, preaching point B, wins souls, we can add all of them up and say the district won 100 souls because 10 came from here, 5 came from there, 15 came from there, and 80 came from some other place. So we can put all of them together and say this is a district performance. The souls were won in the congregations, in the preaching point, but when you put all of them together, you say this is a district performance. So the district can report on their successes based on the achievement of the congregations, and this can be aggregated. If the district was measuring performance with different KPIs, then you see that it's difficult for the district to see the extent to which the congregational results are impacting on the district performance. So these things are also very important in that aspect. So for a lot of the KPIs, you see that they will be aggregated. There are some of them who are not aggregated. For instance, if you are supposed to submit a report by the agent in charge, once you submit it, it's finished. The aggregation is not too important. The district now has to be measured by how quickly it submits its report to the presbytery. And so in that case, there's no aggregation. But in a lot of cases, there are aggregations, and the KPIs are the ones that help us to be able to do that. So in terms of performance indicators, these are the key things. And what I'll do now is to try to move to the KPI framework itself. Are you seeing what I'm seeing now? An Excel sheet.
Yeah, we are seeing it.
Yes,
Are you seeing Excel?
We can see the charts.
No, not the PowerPoint, but I've gone into another software. Can you see it?
Yes, Papa, we can see.
Okay, thank you very much. So typically when you go to the website and you download the KPI framework for the congregation, you will see the starting page will be like what you are seeing now, isn't it? Those of you who have gone there. And so you can see that this is typically for the congregation. And you see that the first set there is overarching goals. And the important thing about the overarching goals is that it is a direct responsibility for the agent in charge. It's a direct responsibility for the agent in charge. It doesn't belong to any of the 11 committees in the congregation. That's the key thing about the key difference between the overarching goals and the departmental goals. The overarching goals, the responsibility is for the agent in charge, let's say for the session. And then other goals, which are departmental goals, are allocated to the committees or to the departments. So that's a key difference. And as you can see, for the congregation, there are 5 overarching goals. The first one is to grow the membership of the church by at least 10% per annum. Traditionally, growing the church goal has been allocated to mission and evangelism. But we all understand that growing the church is not the responsibility of only mission and evangelism. If you go and win souls and you bring them to church, and the way you organize yourself is so boring that people don't enjoy worshiping with your congregations, they'll go away. While mission and evangelism would have done this work. So growing the church is bringing people in and retaining the people who are already inside so that they don't go away. If you don't organize children's service properly and JY very well, so all your young people, when they grow up, they leave your church and go to other churches, then your church life and nature is not being handled very well, and you'll be losing members while mission evangelism is bringing people in. So it's the responsibility of everybody. If your welfare programs are poor and other churches come and their welfare programs are better than yours, and it attracts them away from your church will decline. So when you have a good welfare program, you are retaining, using it to what? Let people enjoy being members of your church, and you are retaining them. So all these things are very, very important. So the responsibility of growing the church by 10% per annum is the responsibility for all the 11 committees, and the person who takes responsibility for that is the agent in charge. That means when all the committees are putting out their programs, you are looking at areas in which they are helping you to either bring in new members or to retain the people you already have, so that you can grow the church. So this is a very important point that I need to emphasize. Now, as we go down, you see that the rest of the goals are more administrative related goals. The first one is church growth goal, but the rest are organizational management administrative related. You see that submitting your 3-year rolling plans and AQTs become important. Submitting quarterly reports become important. Submitting annual reports becomes important. And all these are deadlines. You are expected to meet your deadlines. And then the last one is new, but it's appraisal and setting performance targets. This is the performance appraisal system. And as you can see, everybody is supposed to, your work for 2020 should have been appraised before 31st December, and the targets for 2021 should have been set before 31st December. And this applies across, this deadline must be met. As you can see, all the overarching goals have mandatory and fixed national targets. All the national targets here, all the goals here are mandatory. That means there's no congregation, no preaching point, no district, no presbytery can say that this is not applicable to me. This is applicable to all congregations and all preaching points. You must be growing the church, and you must be submitting these documents quarterly or annually. So this is very important. So you say that it is mandatory. That means all the goals must be done by all congregations, and it is fixed. That means the national target is also fixed, and you must meet it. And this is the first one is the same for all the courts. The 2 to 5, the dates, the actual date is different for each court. So, for instance, if I go to the district, you'll see that, and this is a district 1. This is a district framework. You see that the district minister is here. And it's the same goals, but except that you see that the previous one for the congregation, this deadline is 30th September, but if you go to the district, it's 15th October. So that we are saying that 2 weeks after the congregation have submitted all their planning reports, the district should be able to collate and add its own information to it and submit to the presbytery. So and you can see that if you go to the presbytery probably for the same overarching goal for O2 is October 31st. So the dates are slightly different for each of the courts, up to 4, but 5 is the same. Each is 31st December every year. So generally, what I'm doing now, I'll focus more on the congregations, but I'm just showing some of these nuances that you understand. And so this will be the overarching goals. And all the 3 courts, congregations, district, and presbytery have these 5. So it's common to all the courts, except at the GAO level, where there are 2 additional goals, 6 and 7, which are largely done already. The deadline is 30th September this year, as you can see. And largely, so part of the things you are doing now are all elements of those goals being met by the GAO. But I don't want to go into the details of that because it doesn't directly concern us. But I just showed you that to show you that as we go into the other course, they can add additional goals. And so you go to mission and evangelism, and you see that there are 2 goals there, which has been set: winning souls and undertaking mission goals. And they will each have a national target, and they will have KPIs. And for winning souls, we say it's mandatory. And this is in reference to 1 member, 1 soul agenda per year, vision 1.5. So this is a mandatory goal, and the target is 20% equivalent of your previous year's membership. So if your membership in 2019 was 100, then you are expected that you should target about 20 souls to be won in 2020. That's the sort of the meaning of this. And then we convert that into the number of souls, then you'll be held accountable to that. And you see that we said it's mandatory. We haven't said the target is fixed. So for instance, if you look at your resources, and yes, I'll win souls, but I cannot meet the 20% target, but I can start with 10%, then you can pace yourself. The national target now becomes a benchmark that you work yourself towards. If you come and you say, I'm only going to do 2%, somebody will tell you that you are too far away from 20%. But if you come and say, I'll do 15%, you say, okay, so when are you likely to reach the 20%? You say, in the next 2 or 3 years, probably I can reach the 20%. Then the presbytery will work with you, or the district will work with you to meet that target eventually. So then the target says that push yourself as far as you have resources for, put yourself as far as is realistic for the environment in which you find yourself. So this is just an example of that. The next one is committee. The next one is Committee on Administration and Human Resource. And you can see that for the congregation. No, let me go to the mission evangelism and also show something. If you go to the district, and this is very important, under mission evangelism, 2 activities are added at the district level. And that is in terms of planting new preaching points and inaugurating of new congregations. So the district has that additional responsibility to work with the congregations to plant new preaching points and to inaugurate the preaching points that are ready to become congregations. So the district will have to be aware of this additional mandate that has been given to the district in missions and evangelism. Normally they'll work, but the responsibility has been given at the district and not at the congregational level. I just thought I needed to point out this. Then a question that was asked, how the district translates some of its activities. If you look at Committee on Administration and Human Resources, number 3, you see that if you look at number 4, it's Committee on Physical Development, Building and Property. This is typically an AHRM function, but in the congregation, it has been put in as a separate committee. So if you see the coding of that, you see that we are using AHRM 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you go to Committee on Physical Development, we are using the same AHRM code to continue coding for Committee on Physical Development, Building and Property. Because when you go to the district, it becomes a AHRM function. So you could see that the numbering has been continued, and we have not changed it to PDBP0001. We have not done that. We've just adopted the AHRM and continued, so that numbering system can be carried over easily into the district. So if you go to the district and you look at Committee on Administration and Human Resource, you see that what came as the 6th there is landed properties belong to the congregations and district, and their contents are insured. It's still brought up there, and now it's all shown under Committee on Administration and Human Resource Management. So this is the way in which we have handled that question that was asked earlier, and this example in for AHRM, and the same thing applies to development and social services, where they are combined with welfare. So DSS03 and the welfare becomes DSS04 and on and on. And the same thing, finance stance on the same thing applies to education. Education will have the general education, but the coding education is continued for Committee on Scholarship, because when you move on to the district, these two merge into each other. And then Church Life and Nurture will also have a Committee on Counseling and Family Life, which when you go to the district, so it's a Clan 04, then we go to Clan 05 over here. So generally, these are the structures. So these are the structures that we have, and if you've gone through some of these things already, and you have specific questions on any of them, then I'll take those questions and try to answer them. So if there are questions on the KPI, because really this is the end of the KPI generally in terms of my review, so I'll take specific questions on this.
I would like to come in here, please.
Please do.
My name is Reverend Arwa Senso.
Somewhere, please proceed.
Yeah, somewhere in May, we had these target performance sheets to complete and then send. Now, some were seeing it for the first time, but there were some terms that came that we did not understand, like AQT, TY, RP, those terms, we did not understand them. I think it would have been better to have held this particular workshop with us before sending those things to us, for us to have a very clear view of what we were expected to do. So in fact, as a matter of fact, some of us just put in something just to please those who are supervising us. But I don't think it was right for us to have done that. So I think in future, these things must be well explained to us before they are sent, because some of us, we did not understand. Some of my agents were asking me, Papa, I don't understand this. And I said, you do it the way. So I also had to ask the chairperson. And the chairperson also said the same thing that I said to my agents. So I think in future, such things must come with an explanation before they are done to us, because now we are having the workshop here. It's now that we are explaining these things to us, but then it came to us in May.
Teaching must be first
before. That's my plea. Yes, some of the terms we do not understand, really.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's a fair comment, but these terms and terminologies were actually presented to the GAC in October, and the GAC thought that the performance management system should be implemented in 2020, whilst other details are being worked on, and we are preparing for these training programs and things. So it's the GAC in its collective vision, we decided that the performance management system should be a way of kickstarting some activity in implementing the what do you call it, the strategic plan in 2020. So some of these things were quickly extracted, and training programs were planned. to do this. In fact, the main training that took place was at the last ministers' conference, where we took all the clerks through the framework, because they were then supposed to complete it by March for the Presbytery. When the GSC met in March, they also realized that they came back with this feedback. So actually the GSC planned that let's go back and do specific on the performance, filling those forms, do a training. Then COVID came and consumed us. And so the plan that GSC put through didn't come. So somewhere in March, we're actually going to do a program like this, but just focusing on completing that form so that all these misunderstandings will be clarified. But unfortunately, we were overtaken by COVID, and then we needed to now do this where we now have the whole framework clearly defined so that we can communicate in a more complete manner. So I think it's all part, it's part of the learning process. Sometimes you are thrown into the pool and you learn to swim. That was the method that was used, but it's a dangerous method, I understand. So I think as we go forward, we'll all be in the position to be able to do better when we come around again.
So as a follow-up, what do those terms mean? TYRP, AOT, and those things that are there. But still,
it's the subject of my main video, my main training this afternoon. So if we finish with this, the next set of slides, which you didn't have on your videos, that I'm going to go to, will explain all those things completely, all those terminologies.
Thank you
At
very
least
much.
you've gotten AO and MEO and things. And so AQT and TYRP will also come. But TYRP is 3-year rolling plan and AQT is annual quarterly targets. But what goes into them, we are going to discuss them fully today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. If there are any other questions.
Can I come in? Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please. My name is Reverend Ofori. My question is that the strategic plan that we are reviewing and having all these slides that we are studying or learning today, the previous one that we are reviewing now, we have the key resource areas we had already said, where we have headings like the objectives, the activities, results, remarks, recommendations, and the next step and other ones. That order. Now, with this current strategic plan, the 10-year strategic plan that we are from 2020 to 2019, the reports that must come is submitted from the committees to the various chairpersons or various directors, then to the congregation clerks, then to the district clerk, then to the Presbyterian clerk. What format should it take? Is it going to change? Is it going to move away from the former key resource area items?
A very good question. Now you report under this framework. So this framework is what is replacing what you had in the previous strategic plan. So that's why this framework was developed, because the way the strategic plan document was crafted, we thought if we extracted this out like this, then it would make it easier for everybody. So that's the essence of this framework. So if you're going to write your report now, your first item will be overarching goals. What did I achieve? Your second item will be mission and evangelism. Your third item will be administration and human resource. Your fourth item will be the physical development. And what are your goals that you are going to report on? And the Committee on Physical Development and Building Development, the key things that you are expected to report on will then be to what extent have you registered your lands that you have for the church. To what extent have you insured the properties that you own? Then any other thing that you've done in addition to this can also be added to your report. So when you are reporting, minimum expectation from you in your report will be that what HRM 05, what have you done in terms of registering your land? If it's not fully registered. And in Ghana here, this is very important because we have a lot of people, church lands that have not been registered properly. Last year, what did you do? What, in terms of the processes, how far have you moved it forward? And are you in the process of achieving the end? If there's litigation, how is it being managed on the land? So now the new headings that you report on for the congregation will be 12, one overarching and 11 departmental or committee goals. And then, so your report will be then organized in terms of the prose form around this. Now, when you go onto the website, and we'll come to this, there are templates for submitting your planning reports, there are templates for submitting your quarterly report, there are templates for submitting your, what do you call it? Annual report. Not the prose form, but the tables that you have to attach to your annual report, the frameworks are all, the templates are all there. There are templates for what we call the TYRP, 3-year rolling plans. There are templates for what we call the annual quarterly targets. There are templates for quarterly targets, and there are templates for annual targets. And this will be the subject of our next discussion. So they are provided as in tabular form, not the prose form. But you are supposed to extract information from your tables to write your prose reports.
Okay, thank you. As a follow-up, let me also ask that you have your report and you attach the tabular table to your report. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome, sir.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Please, a question.
I have a question on my name is Michael Enyaniabua.
Mike. Yeah, thanks.
You know, there's a question about evaluation. You know, like all these performances, all these developments, all these reports, and whatever it is. Do we have a period for evaluation so that we could evaluate the whole system and see whether we could move forward or not, and not a matter of just following the protocol of, you know, the goals and the targets and the performances? Do we have a time that we have to evaluate that whatever we're doing is actually becoming fruitful or not?
Yes, it's part of the system that we are putting in place for evaluation framework. If you like, I'll show you something that we just, one slide of something that we just did for Camp Presbytery. Then you see how useful what we are doing here is. Then I need to close this and go out of sorry, you are sharing new share. So just a moment, I'll show you something that we just did. Just to emphasize it, this is very important for me. Can you see a new slide which has come?
Yeah, I can see the
guidelines for report writing. Is it shared?
No,
Yeah, we have seen.
Not yet.
Please reshare.
Report writing is there.
Please reshare. You click on the
Guidelines for
share
report
and you
writing.
click it. Please.
Frank, has it come?
Please reshare. Reshare,
Okay.
please. Thank you.
That share.
Thank you. Shared.
It's
Thank
come
you.
now. Okay, right, thanks. Okay. So this is a workshop I led yesterday for the Ghana Presbytery, but just let me go to for instance, the Ghana Presbytery last year, we asked the districts to attach all sorts of things, like we are saying now, to their reports, because we're implementing the strategic plan that we started on our own already. And this is the level of compliance. So we in terms of performance, we could measure how people are responding to the guidelines we give them to submit the reports and what attachments they should give to the reports, because these are basis for evaluation. So this is just one way of evaluation. And then there's performance. The performance agreement that you were asked to sign that you didn't understand too many things about. Ghana Presbytery started it from last year. So 2019, Ghana Presbytery signed performance agreement. And these are the, in fact, this is what GAC is learning from and applying to the rest of us. Growing the church, welfare of members. You see, it looks similar to what you signed. These are the overall. Now, we were able to measure the performance of each of the 25 district ministers. This is the overall performance. So you can see that the district minister for Sakumono scored 81, and Taifa scored 33. So the district ministers were brought together, and this sort of evaluation and presentations were made to them and say, this is the way we are performing. So what is the problem with those over here? And who are achieving well, and what can we learn from them? So you see that when it comes to evaluation, this becomes a peer sort of review, where you are not reviewing for sanctions and rewards, but reviewing in the way that the people who are not doing well will feel ashamed that their peers are saying that they are not doing too well, and they will then put in some effort to do better next time. So again, in terms of evaluation and in terms of performance, these are some of the things that we can do.
Okay.
I can also show you, and this is in each of the areas that welfare of members, organizational management and score, financial management scores, and then we go into membership growth. And you can see, we can show each district how they are doing. The best performing was doing 24%, while somebody was losing 30% of his people. Why are you losing 30%? Did you actually lose people, or you are collecting data wrongly? We can interrogate all these things because we can plot this chart. And we can show this to the district ministers and their lay reps and their peers and some of their members to see how they are doing and whether they want to remain at those levels. So all these things can be done. At the presbytery level, all the data collected from the congregations is shown, is demonstrated here. The Ghana Presbytery targeted to grow at 10%, we only did 3.8. Is it good enough? We targeted to improve church attendance by 9.3%. We did 20%. This is exceptionally good. The same way attendance to children's service and JY, but attendance to group meetings, we targeted 96%, 9.6%, we did 4.3. So winning, we said we'll win 7.6 equivalent of our members, and we did 7.7. We exceeded our targets. This, when we follow the processes and we use the same means for collecting information and evaluating, we are able to do this type of analysis. It can inform who is doing well, who is not doing well, how are we meeting our targets, how are we compared. We can even do a time series over the last 5 years. How are we doing? All those analyses can be done. But if you don't have the same basis for data collection across board, the same basis for planning, the same basis for performance assessment, then you are not able to bring this data. You don't have the KPIs. Then what KPIs do you measure, and how do you analyze your performance? So this is what we started in the Ghana Presbytery in 2019, and the General Assembly also appears to be adopting the same processes, and that means eventually, even if next year we're not perfect, this year we're not perfect, next year we're not perfect, probably after 2-3 years, the numbers will start making meaning to us, because we'll not be struggling with processes, but we'll have mastered the processes so that we can now focus on what the actual data is telling us. And our researchers can then look at some of these things and advise the church in more specific ways than we've been doing so far. I'm just sharing this just to encourage us that if we do these things the way we are going, these are the sort of analysis we are able to do in the future to help us to determine the strategies for church growth and what objectives we should work towards.
Thank you.
So I've just shared some ground preparatory information just to be able to encourage all of us to be able to do more. So we shouldn't think that we are just pushing numbers. Sometimes if you think you are just pushing numbers and you just do things because you have been asked to do it and you don't pay attention to it, you may get embarrassed. You may see a 33% loss of membership when actually you have not lost members, but just because the last year's number, you didn't do it carefully. So I think if we don't have any more questions on the KPRs, then we can then move to ministry hours. Somebody is asking, Papa, in evaluating, do we consider ministry hours, that full-time and tent ministry? Oh, okay. Basically, we look at outcomes, outputs. And we evaluate outcomes and not inputs. Now, when you are making the decision to make a promise, especially where you are free to set your target, you are negotiating your target, and then you have to then negotiate based on your input challenges. That's why we say we are all not on the same levels. So if you negotiate those targets by your input challenges that you have, and then you can be held to your output compared to what you promised. So that's what I can say on that. Mr. Chairman, I'll suggest that we take another 5 minutes break, and then we'll come and show you the new things that you have not seen already.
Okay. We thank you very much. So, colleagues, we shall go and stretch for another 5 minutes and come back. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.